Hey guys, I hope you're doing well and welcome back to the channel. So in this one we are going to talk about how we can optimize a scene which has a lot of destructible assets and geometry collections. This is an indie game that I've been working on recently and it's all about destruction. Here, as you can see, I am able to destroy basically everything in the scene, and in these kind of situations, optimizing your scene, optimizing your destructible assets and geometry collections is a must. Otherwise, you'll experience a significant FPS drop, which makes your game basically unplayable. So here, as you can see, the scene has a lot of destructible assets, but with a couple of tricks and with using a disable and sleep field, you are able to keep your frames per second and you'll basically have no FPS drop in your level. Here there are basically a lot of destructible objects in the level, but as you can see, everything is working perfectly and there is no FPS drop in the level. So let's jump right in and see how we can set this up. By the way, if you're interested in learning how to make a complete first-person zombie shooter game in Unreal Engine 5 using blueprints, check out my new course. In this course, you will start with the basics of Unreal Engine and blueprints. Then you will learn the animation framework in Unreal. Next, we'll create all the animations we need using control rigs, and finally, you will put everything together and build a fully functional game. It includes 7 weapons, a HUD, win and lose conditions, ammo pickups, enemy AI, and a wave-based game mode. Check out the link in the description. Alright, here I have a geometry collection and I have made it using this fracture mode in Unreal. If you don't know how to make geometry collections, all you need to do is to just go to your fracture mode, then grab the asset. Here, hit new, define a folder for your geometry collection, create new geometry collection. Then here, choose one of these fracture types, for example, cluster. Then here in your fracture tab, you can define the number of clusters. For example, let's go with 4, 3, 10, something like this, and hit fracture. Now you have your geometry collection here. Here in the details, you can disable this show bound colors, so it doesn't assign colors to the mesh. And next, you need to define the damage threshold, so you can control how easy it breaks. This is a very high value, so in this case, if I try to drop this on the floor, you can see that it's not going to break. But if I reduce the damage threshold, for example 4,000, 3,000 and 2,000, and put it in the air, hit Alt S to simulate, you can see that it's breaking. You can obviously play with the damage threshold. You can just increase the height, you can change the angle of the impact, and now as you can see, it's breaking easily. So now this is how you can create a geometry collection, and this is the one that I want to work with. Here, as you can see, I am getting about 40 frames per second. This is because I am doing a screen record and it impacts the FPS significantly. If I do not screen record, it's about 80 frames per second. So here, when I hit Alt S to simulate physics, you can see that there is a very small FPS drop, but it goes back to its previous value and it's not going to be a real problem. But if we have a lot of geometry collections in the scene, that won't be the case anymore, and it's going to have a very huge impact on your FPS. So for example, let's duplicate these guys like this. Then select these and duplicate like this as well. Now if I hit Alt S to simulate, you can see that there is a very significant FPS drop, and we are hitting 20 something in our frame rate. If we have more, something like this, this will happen. We are hitting even 15 or 13 on our frames. So now in these kind of situations, we need to do something about the optimization, and the way to go is to use a field. Alright, here the first thing you need to do is to open this settings and make sure the engine content is visible. Next, go to your engine folder and here search for disable field. Here, as you can see, we have this FS SleepDisable generic, and this is a field that is used for physics and for disabling and sleeping the physics objects in your level. We don't want to change anything here in this asset, so we need to duplicate it somewhere else and use the other one. So here I'm just going to drag it to my content folder and hit copy. Then I'm going to go back and here use the field that I duplicated. So here let's just drag it into the level, hit G to see the field, and now as you can see we have this field here and we can place it under the geometry collections here. So let's scale it up and place it properly here. Maybe we can make it even bigger like this. And here we basically have three field behaviors. We have sleep, disable, and kill. When you set it on sleep, the objects get deactivated when they enter the field, but they will wake up when you make contact with the object. In my experience, this doesn't do much and it doesn't help with our FPS. So here, as you can see, when I simulate, you can see that there is no noticeable effect on our FPS, and it's basically doesn't do much, so I almost never use this sleep here. But next we have disable. This will disable all the physics and the destruction of the objects, and this can help a lot. So now in this case, when I hit simulate, you can see that the objects get disabled and we can hit 30 frames per second when they all get deactivated. And next we have kill, which totally stops the objects, and here, as you can see, they get stopped even before they get destroyed. So this is the most you can do with the field, but this cannot usually be used in the level. They use it on outside of the level, so when something gets destroyed and wants to drop out of your level, you can use this to stop the bones and just control your scene. But the thing that you go with almost all the time is disable. So again, let's set it on disable, and this time I'm going to bump up the threshold as well. This is basically the speed limit of the objects. when the objects have a speed lower than this value here, they will be disabled, meaning that if you bump this up, the disable field will be active much more compared to something like 2, and this time you will have even more optimization for the objects. So here, as you can see, everything is stopped and everything is disabled, and now we are able to keep our FPS on what it was. Again, I am using a screen recorder, and if I don't do that, I can get 60 or even 70 frames per second using these settings. And finally, you can adjust the fall off shape as well. You can go for a sphere, or even you can use a plane. When you use a plane, it will impact the objects on the other side of the green arrow here. So here, if I go for a kill and simulate, you can see that it instantly kills all of these objects here because they are on the other side. If I go with disable and hit simulate, they will be disabled when they hit this threshold. So this is a very high threshold. Let's go, for example, with 10. And as you can see, it controls the objects based on this threshold here. And the final thing you need to know is when you set this on kill, it doesn't care about the threshold and it will kill everything immediately. So when you use kill, this doesn't matter anymore. I usually use the box with a threshold about 2 or 5, and this will work almost all the time. Yeah, that's it for this video, and if you learned something new from this tutorial, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Peace out.